when large language models happened. I thought, wow, this is bigger than a computer, right? This is the beginning of intelligence. We're in a brand new explosion of smaller, vertically focused AI focused businesses. And now is the time to launch them. You can't compete, period, if you don't use AI, right? But then how do you compete with everyone else that's using AI? And the answer is you get good at planning. You get good at not outsourcing your thinking.
Ryan, welcome to the show.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to share some things that are hopefully interesting and valuable.
It's going to be a lot of fun. So I'm glad we had a chance to connect. I mean, you're living all things AI every day, but for everybody who doesn't yet know you, who are you and what do you do?
So I was born and raised in Colorado. And when I was, I think in fourth grade, my dad brought home an Apple IIe computer. And I was like, wow, what is that? And started playing with it. And like everybody, played some games like Prince of Persia and fun stuff.
I love that game.
It's so
such a good game.
And then, kind of put the computer aside for a while. And then I was walking down the hallway when I was in 11th grade. And my math teacher, her name is Miss Bruce. And she tapped me on the shoulder and she said, Ryan, you should take our programming class. And I was like, what's programming? And she said, it's where you tell the computer what to do and it does it. And I was like,
I like that idea.
I'm in. So I took my very first programming class in high school. It was Turbo Pascal. And then, the bug had bitten me. And I realized, wow, you can create, from nothing with code. It's this ultimate creative activity. So fell in love with it and ended up studying computer science at college. And then at the end of college, I thought, I'm going to have an adventure and just move somewhere totally different. And I watched the movie Notting Hill, which is an amazing romantic comedy. And I was like, I'm going to move to England. So hopped on a plane and I'll never forget it because it was at Denver International Airport. My mom dropped me off and she was sobbing. And I'm like, Mom, what are you crying about? Like, I'm going to be back. I'm just going to be gone for a year. And she said, you're never going to come back because you're going to meet a girl. And I was like, no, I won't. And sure enough, met my amazing wife in England and we're still married today. And I'm British.
But you're not in England. You did come back.
I did come back, but not to Colorado. I'm in Connecticut now. So,
okay.
And that's a whole nother story. So, kind of grew up computer science programmer, got my first job as a web developer. And then the entrepreneurial bug bit. And I thought, you know what? I could build an app, that solves a problem and try to build a business. So at the time I was a web developer and we had clients and we needed to send them large files, Photoshop files or whatever. And back in the day, you couldn't email stuff that was very large. And I thought, I'm going to build a tool that sends large files over email. And so during nights and weekends, I built it and shipped it and then launched it. And it was successful. Ended up getting acquired, I think 2 years later. So that was like my first kind of, wow, okay, I can start a business. It can get acquired.
And which company was that?
It was called DropSend. And ironically, or sadly, it was called Dropbox. And I launched it right before the Dropbox. And I was living in Bath, England and didn't raise a bunch of venture capital. I thought, I'm not going to go to war with Dropbox here. So renamed it to DropSend. But it ended up being a successful, small startup and was acquired. So
wait, you're not the guy who owned the domain. There's a famous Drew Houston story where he buys the Dropbox domain. That wasn't from you, right?
No,
okay.
That would be great. So that was kind of my first, at bat. And then from then on, I really decided, I want to teach people how to code because if you learn how to code, you unlock wealth and you unlock opportunity. And I don't think you should have to go to school and study computer science to do that. It's like if you want to be an electrician, you wouldn't go get a degree as an electrical engineer. It doesn't make sense, right? And everybody's going to computer science to program. And programming is really a trade skill. And so basically decided, I think it's time to launch a school and teach people how to code. So the next 15 years of my life was all about starting companies that were ed tech companies and teaching people how to code. So kind of fast forward, a couple of years, we ended up launching a business called Treehouse, which is an online school. We taught people how to code, charged $25 a month, ended up raising about $20 million in venture capital, scaled the team to over 100 full-time employees. And then that business was acquired in 21. And, then it was took a breath because I had been running Treehouse for a decade and tried to figure out what was next. And as you remember, 21 and 22 is when, large language models happened. And so, obviously I paid attention to that and thought, wow, this is bigger than a computer, right?
I think like most people clued in probably in 23, but yeah, 21 was probably GPT-3 or something.
It was all starting to happen. And then I think as soon as you realize, wow, like this is the beginning of intelligence, then that was a really exciting moment. So after Treehouse was acquired and large language models happened and generative pre-trained transformers worked, I was like, wow, okay, this is going to change everything. Now what? And I think at that point, I didn't have an idea to start a company. I was like, okay, I could think of some things, but I don't have that passion for a specific problem, right? Every entrepreneur, you can really only start a business when you have the idea that you truly believe in. So at that time, I was like, I don't know about is silicon. Like how does AI actually work, right? How is the matrix multiplication actually happen on a GPU? And like, how do you train a large language model? And so I thought, I'm just going to join a silicon company that makes silicon, makes GPUs and CPUs. And so I thought, I'm just going to try to join Intel and learn. And so applied for a job, got a job.
Yeah, I was wondering how the Intel thing happened. So that's why.
That's why. Yeah, it was my adult internship, is what I call it. And I just thought, I'm going to go be a sponge and learn. I'm going to learn what it's like to be in a big enterprise. There was over 100,000 employees at Intel at the time and learned so much. It was fascinating. So kind of did the big company thing for a bit, had a good time, ended up rolling out their global developer relations program and their influencer program. And when I felt like I'd done what I accomplished, what I had been there to do, decided to leave. And then it was like, okay, I did have an idea at that point. So my two sisters had gotten divorced and had watched them navigate that and watched them go through, pain and expense and a lot. And I thought, I think divorce needs to be disrupted. And so I started building an AI divorce assistant. And so I was doing that on the side. And then I was using AI tools to build it. Right. So probably people watching this, you're using ChatGPT, or maybe you're delving into the worlds of tools like Cursor or AMP, who I now work with. And you're probably trying these things and realizing, wow, I can build so much more now. It's like you have the infinity gauntlet on your hand and you can create. So I was doing that. Along came Twitter, because I'm on Twitter all the time, and someone said you should try a tool called AMP. And I had never heard of it. And I tried it, and it's basically an agentic coding tool that helps you code and build. And it was good. So then I thought, okay, this is really good. And so the CEO and I got talking, and he said, well, why don't you join AMP as builder in residence, build your startup, on the side with us. You keep all the IP but use AMP and let people know how it works for you. And so now I'm a builder in residence at AMP and building my startup on the side and then spending a lot of time on Twitter or X. So that's my circuitous story.
Oh, super interesting. And so AMP is the agentic coding tool for Sourcegraph, right?
Yeah. So Sourcegraph is actually an older company. They have a big enterprise business where they sell code search tools. And then they launched AMP, which is an agentic coding tool. They launched that this year, and it's just taken off like a rocket. It's wild.
Can we talk about that for a second? So there are a lot of people that they've used ChatGPT, they've used Claude, and we've talked about tools like Bolt and Lovable, and people have seen you type into a text box the thing you want to build, and then you press enter, and it writes thousands of lines of code, and then out comes this result. Developers, might use that for prototyping, but the tools, there's the windsurfs and the cursors of the world. So we use, for example, Cursor at Fellow, but maybe tell me about AMP. So it sounds like you prefer AMP. So maybe you can explain what's different about AMP and why you prefer it. And like, maybe we should switch. So I would love to know.
Well, it's free. So that's one reason to switch.
That's a good reason. So anybody listening could go and find AMP and start coding for free.
Yeah, ampcode.com/free. And this just happened. So we just launched this last week. And here's why. So it turns out that actually tokens are expensive. So tokens are what large language models produce, right? And if you're listening, you can think of them as a word, right? So, you might say peanut butter and and the next token would be jelly, right? So large language models, this is what they do. But it turns out that's actually expensive. And so everybody thinks it's cheap because it's funded by, companies that have, billions and billions of dollars in venture capital funding. But the truth is, like, if you actually pay for those tokens, they're expensive. And so AMP, what we used to do is we built the best tool for coding, I think, the best tool for coding, but it was expensive because what we would do is we would allow the agent to use as many tokens as it really needed. We would use the absolute best models. Think of it as the premium product, right? So if you wanted the best.
Yeah, you wanted the PhD coder, not just the PhD, but like the PhD was the top of their class and then worked at, I don't know, Meta for 10 years.
Right. Yeah. You want the luxury tool, the expensive tool for serious work, right? So that's what AMP is and was. But everyone said, gosh, it's expensive. I mean, I can pay Claude Code $200 a month and kind of get everything I need.
So when you say expensive, what does that mean? Like, what is it?
I mean, I would, if you're an engineer and you're using AMP for real work and producing, important code, you can easily spend $500 a month, $1,000 a month, which all of us running businesses, if you actually think about it, it's nothing. Like if you think, well, if I hired an engineer, they would cost, $30,000 a month. But it sounds expensive, right? So our CEO, Quinn, had this idea is like, let's make it free and let's have it paid for by ads.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And all of us are
Super
like,
interesting.
That's not going to work. Right. And he's like, let's try it. And then it was kind of a joke at first internally. And then after a while, we're like, this might work. And so essentially the team worked really hard on how do you deliver the same experience, but for free. And all we do is we put a little ad for developers above the text box, and it's all for developer tools. Like it's things you actually want and you probably will want to click on and you will want to see.
Oh, and you can tell it to them when they need it. So you're in the middle of writing the auth code or something, and maybe there's an auth 0 ad.
Exactly. And it never changes what the agent says or suggests, right? So it never mixes in with what code you're writing, because obviously that would be bad. But it will absolutely be customized based off of what your code base is, what you're trying to do. And your auth example is perfect. Or say you need to send emails, it might say, here's resend, which does programmatic email, try it for 10% off. So
you're about to write this emailing thing in your product, and rather than writing it and supporting it and all that stuff, here's a company that does exactly that. We'll save you a bunch of time and hassle.
Right. So it's actually ads you want. And so the interesting thing from a business perspective for people that don't care about coding or anything is like, this is literally a brand new advertising channel that has never existed. Ads for developers directly in their IDE.
And the thing about developers is they're notoriously opposed. Like they're the first people that install the ad blockers and like are programmed from birth to just be blind to all ads in all places. And so this is stuff that even developers want. That's super interesting.
We thought people hate it, and it shockingly people love it and advertisers love it. So we have like this.
So wait, AMP is like actually free. Like there's no paid version.
So you can pay if you want, but it's getting to the point where it's like, well, why would you? The free version is so good that I don't know why you wouldn't use it. And we actually just today, we also removed the need to train on your data to make it free as well. So now we don't train on your data at all. And all you have to do is look at useful ads and click them if you feel like it. So anyway, I don't want to talk too much about AMP because I know I'm not here to do that, but I spent a decade teaching people how to code. And the idea now that you have this literally free, infinitely intelligent being who is your, tutor, who's your pair programmer for free forever is just, I think it's one of the more game-changing things that's happening right now. So
I'm going to try it out. So I love this idea, but I did want to ask you one question, which is interesting. So everybody is using ChatGPT and Claude and all these tools, and every time you do, tokens are used and tokens cost money. And it's true that some of these tools cost $20 a month for the basic version, but I think like if you use it a lot, my assumption is these companies actually lose money. Like, is that true? Or
yeah.
So is the whole industry losing money? So when you think about, like a Cursor or something like that, are they like mega profitable, or they're actually just subsidizing these tokens right
I
now?
mean, and I respect and like the Cursor team. I love the Claude Code team. These are all amazing products, amazing people trying to do the right thing. But the truth is the majority of these businesses are not profitable at all.
Like unit economics not profitable?
No, not at all. I mean, and because at AMP, we would charge the actual cost of the tokens. Like we didn't even mark them up. So the idea is we go to Anthropic, say we're going to buy, $10 million of tokens from you. And they'd say, okay, we're going to give them to you 15% off. And then we would just charge market, right? So we would make the 15% cut, but not because we're adding it to the tokens. We're just getting a discount.
Super interesting. So basically what you're saying is that these tools should cost 500 a month, but they're currently being sold for 40 a month.
Yeah. So there's gonna be a reckoning at some point, right? And companies that have, literally billions of dollars in funding will be able to do this token.
It's not even arbitrage. It's like the early days of ride sharing where Uber and Lyft were.
Lost
It
money
was
in
so
everything.
like, it's like people stopped wanting to own cars because they're like, this is so cheap. This is cheaper than owning a car.
So we decided just not to play the game. It's like, you know what? Forget it. We'll literally make it free and make it, ad supported. And it's fun. So this is why I joined AMP. I'm a founder entrepreneur. There's no way I would join a company unless I was able to act like an entrepreneur. And Quinn, our CEO, and Byung, our CTO, who's co-founder, and Torsten, who's our main developer, they're just extreme risk takers, but in the best sense, right? Like, let's bet the company on this and let's see what happens. So it's pretty fun.
It's super interesting. And thank you for the education on token economics, what's going on. The conclusion that I kind of draw from all of this is to some extent the cheapest that AI might be for a while, right? Like you said, a reckoning at some point will come. And, maybe like fast forward 10 years, it'll be cheaper, but we will get to a point where, like, if you're getting a ton of value on from AI, like, this is the moment, like, you're getting it at a deal. Whereas,
So what's going to happen is this, right? So the frontier models are always going to be expensive, right? So what's going to happen is, we've got Sonnet 4.5, which is the best agentic coding model in the world, right? We're going to see probably Gemini 3 ship soon. It's going to be better. It'll probably be the same price, maybe a little cheaper, because Google always either subsidizes or because they use their TPUs, like they make it cheaper. But the frontier model is always going to be that price. And what will happen is there's always a fall off on their little brothers and little sisters, right? So you've got Gemini 2.5 Flash, which is a very good model. Like, I use it in my product. It's so fast and it's very intelligent, but it's way cheaper. So Gemini 2.5 Flash for a message of reasonable length is about half a cent. Like, compare that with the same message from Sonnet 4.5, that's about 10 cents. So what's going to happen is, like, you'll get frontier models that'll be expensive, and then quickly you'll have the second tier models, which are good enough for most businesses, and they'll get cheaper. But that churn happens, right? So I think what we're seeing is this is basically what intelligence costs, right? And people should understand, you either pay for it or you use it, or it's subsidized either by ads or by venture capital dollars. That's one of the two.
hey everyone, just a quick pause on today's episode to tell you about my day job. In addition to This New Way, I'm the CEO of a company called Fellow.ai, and Fellow is an AI meeting assistant. It joins all your meetings, it summarizes them, tracks the actions and the decision, and does that better than any other tool that you've seen. We've spent a ton of time making sure that the meeting notes and summaries and action items that come out of Fellow are the most accurate, the most precise. It beats any human. You have to try it. But in addition to that, what makes Fellow different is that it is the first AI note taker built from the ground up with security and privacy in mind. This means that you can use it for all your meetings, not just the customer-facing ones, but also the sensitive ones, things like one-on-ones and executive team meetings and those QBRs and everything in between. It's got really good judgment. So, for example, if you start a meeting and you're talking about some social stuff that you don't really want on the record that's going to get emailed to everyone afterwards, Fellow just knows. It just doesn't include those things. or say you have something that you talked about and later on you realize, oh man, that shouldn't have been there, it makes it really easy. You can go back to the meeting, select that part, delete it, and then it's gone from the record. It connects to all of the other tools you use in the organization, whether that's Slack or Asana or HubSpot or Salesforce or Linear or Jira or Confluence, whatever it is, Fellow integrates with all those things. I think the best part is that Fellow also acts as an AI chief of staff. Because it sits on all the meetings and the conversations that you have access to, you can ask it really cool questions such as, what are the biggest opportunities in my company? What are the bottlenecks in engineering? And Fellow just pieces together information, sees trends, and it can answer those sorts of questions. It can even do things like, hey, based on all of the one-on-ones that I've had with this particular person, can you create them a performance review? And it can do things like that too. And the sky's really the limit. What I really wanted you to do is have the opportunity to try out Fellow, check it out, and we're making a special offer available to all our listeners. So just go to fellow.ai/thisnewway to try Fellow. There's a discount code in there for you if you decide to continue with it. Either way, I would love for you to try it and let me know what you think. And with that said, let's go back to the episode. The beginning of every cycle, I think even in the beginning of the internet where people were shipping goods, that stuff was subsidized. Maybe shipping was charged, people charged less for shipping back in the early days just to get the movement, just to get people to order and build the habits and find this new way of working. So super interesting. And so the startup that you're building inside of AMP, is it still the AI divorce lawyer type product? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Is it live? What's the status?
It's live, but I'm not sharing it yet because it's in
Okay.
private beta. But
Okay, cool.
it's a business. It's a separate entity from AMP. So I have a really cool deal there where I can build my company while I work with AMP. But it's exciting. It's it's one of these things because hopefully people that are listening are starting to have these ideas, right? So everybody has expertise in something, right? And it's usually a hyper specialized or vertical industry, right? It may be floor tiling, right? Or it may be divorce, in Connecticut, or it could be anything. And you used to not be able to monetize those things because they were too niche, right? But now you have people like me who are passionate about a subject and can build a specific vertical solution that is an absolute expert, right? And you don't need to be, a $10 million business or a $20 million business to have a very good business. And you can keep your headcount way low because of AI. So we're in a brand new explosion of smaller, vertically focused AI focused businesses, right? And now is the time to launch them. And this is why I'm on the show. It's like, I want to show people like you can do these things, right? You don't need a computer science degree anymore, right? You just need agency and you just need grit.
Okay. So yeah, with that said, let's switch to the demo portion. So this is amazing, like to have someone like yourself built and sold 3 companies as a developer, business person, entrepreneur, all in one. And you spent so many years teaching people how to code. And now you're going to show us how to build programs without coding. So this is quite the treat.
Yes, I'm going to try. And and if you're listening, we'll talk you through it. If you're watching, you're going to see code, but just know I'm going to talk you through it and explain, this is how this works. So, okay. All right, everybody. So I'm going to walk you through how to build something very simple. I'll use AMP, but you could use any coding tool you like. But again, as we're talking about, AMP is free, so why not?
And we're going to link to it in the show notes, and it'll be in the newsletter. So sign up at thisnewway.com, and we're going to send you the link to all these things, including AMP.
Sounds good. So what you're seeing here is AMP is on the right, and this is the orb, which is kind of fun. You can play with it. So this is AMP on the right, and we're going to talk to it in a little bit. You can see we're on the free version here. On the left, you have what's called a development server. That really just means that's the thing that's running the code. When you put this thing on the internet or you deploy it, you won't have to worry about that. And then here on the left is the app we're going to be building. Right now, it's blank. It's kind of a placeholder. So I'm going to show you, ideally in a couple steps, how to build something pretty simple. Now, as we talked about before, a lot of folks are using really great tools like Lovable or Bolt, and they're great, right? And there's a lot of things you can build with those tools. But if you are thinking about starting a business that's going to offer, a specialized AI service or agent or solution, you're most likely going to end up having to, write the code, deploy the code, and maintain the code. And as someone who spent a decade teaching people how to code who didn't know how to code, you can do this. And it's even easier now because of agents. So let's talk through a couple things. So I'm actually going to use another tool, which I'm not being paid to say. It's called Whisperflow.
Whisper Flow. I use Super Whisper, but yeah, same thing.
It's great. So I'm gonna tap a key and then I'm gonna talk to it instead of having to type. So I want you to build a simple one-page app that allows me to put in a news topic. And then I would like the large language model to search the web and then give us a list of news articles or things that I need to know that are happening about that topic and then display it on the page. Okay. Now, this is an overly simplistic idea, right? You may want the subject matter to be something specific, like say that you want to build an app for plumbers and plumbers need to know something specific about their customers in an area. You might specify that, but we'll go kind of simple. So we're going to hit enter and we're going to let AMP start thinking about things. It's going to start looking through and understand our code base and how to do that. So, and this is the ad that I was talking about. If you want to click on that ad, you could, but you don't have to. So, all right. So it's kind of interesting. You're seeing the agent, read through files, think through things. We can actually expand the thinking here if we want to see, what it's thinking about. Those of you that are newer to large language models and using AI, one of the big breakthroughs is that models went from simple output to reasoning models. And so they're able to think through what they're doing and then base their actions on that. So you can see all of the thoughts behind there. So we've already got some code. So when you see code, when you see a minus or a red, it means that it deleted some code. When you see green like this, it means that it added code. So it's added some code and it's removed some code. And you can see over here, something's already changed, right? All right, new search app. That's kind of cool. And now it's asking us if it can edit these files. We're going to say yes. We're going to allow it to edit the files.
That's cool that it asks you for permission. Doesn't want like it's still learning and you're still trusting it, so you're not going YOLO with it just yet.
Right. I like a little bit of control, and then I let go. So it's right now thinking about how to make the demo. We'll see some things. I assume if we go over here, this is not going to work yet. Yep, doesn't work yet. Oh, interesting. So it's going to tell us what to do over here. So we'll let this cook for a minute. You can see it's adding some more code and setting some things up. There we go. I'm going to stop sharing, kind of talk you through what it's doing. Then when it's ready, I'll come back and show you how to do this and we'll go from there.
That seems pretty cool. So you were basically, you just had a prompt. You just explained what your topic was. You didn't go overly detailed. What I'm hearing now is if you really want to do this, just like if you were working with a developer, you can tell them, like, you can maybe have like a 2-minute conversation with them and have them go build something. But a lot of times when you do that, when the work comes back, it's not what you thought. It might be a little bit different. They might have understood the wrong thing. So the right way to do it is like create a full plan that's, pretty detailed, step by step, and go back and forth, agree on the plan. And when you're 100% sure that the plan is what it is, then you go off and, you actually get the work to be created. Do you do that as well with when you're using AMP?
Absolutely. So what I was showing you is more just a quick, let's get something up and running, which you probably would use Lovable or Bolt for that type of thing. But I wanted to show you can also write real code, work with an agent that generates real code, and then maintain that code. And because you have this agent to talk things through, you can always ask questions and then problem solve. And in the end, you're going to build a more valuable business that way. So that's kind of why we started code first versus interface first. Now, when it comes to planning and executing, absolutely, you're right. So what I'll usually do if I have a large feature that I want to add to that, for instance, is I will turn on Whisperflow and I'll start talking about, okay, this is the type of feature that I want. This is how it should work. And then what I do is I have a file that I tag, which is called generate PRD, which is product requirement doc. And I actually have a free GitHub repo that anybody can download these prompts and we can pop it in the show notes. So you tag that file, which means you tell the AI to look at it, and it has instructions for creating a product requirement doc. And basically it takes all of your ramblings about this feature that you want, and then it turns it into a systematic, thoughtful product requirement doc. And then you read it, right? So I think a lot of where most people fall down with AI is they'll say, do this thing, and then it generates it, and then they send it somewhere, or they, and they don't read it, right? And you have to have the discipline still to read, right? And to think. So at AMP, we always say, don't outsource your thinking to the agents, outsource your work to the agents.
Oh, I love that. That's a great phrase that everybody should internalize. Outsource the work, not your thinking.
Because it's easy to outsource your thinking or what you think is your thinking, but there is a tremendous value in you as the human collaborating with the AI, not outsourcing your thought to the AI. So what you do is you use Whisperflow, talk through your requirements, have it generate the PRD, then read it. And what you're going to find is the AI misinterpreted some of your ideas, or it had ideas that it wants to do that you don't, or maybe it's making it too complex, or you will absolutely find problems. So then you read that and then turn on Whisperflow again and say, no, I didn't mean that, or cut that out, or, remove that bit, and then you iterate. And usually you have to do that 10 times.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So the other day I shipped a big feature for my app, and, it took me 2 hours to plan it.
Oh, really? Wow. So that's super interesting. You might spend 2 hours just planning.
Yeah. It was writing not a single line of code. Right. And because you end up realizing that a lot of your ideas were not fleshed out, or they were unclear. Right. And so
or maybe you didn't think about like some edge case that only occurred to you after reading the way that it was proposed to be built.
Yes. So think about this, like, say you wanted to build a house, right? So you need architecture plans, you need plumbing plans, you need electrical plans, you need all that. You need, AC plans. And say that you just said to a carpenter or a builder, make me a house, make it great, right? Okay, go. I mean, you can imagine that would never work, right? You'd say, no, I need the bathroom over here, or actually the kitchen's too small, or what about like when we need to replace the shower someday, the entire, plumbing stack is in the middle of the kitchen. How's that going to work? Right. And so you would iterate with them, and you'd end up with a much better plan. It's no different when you're creating apps. And even if you're not technical, this is the beauty, is that you have a CTO now, right? But the CTO can't read your mind. It doesn't know really what you want. So collaborating with that CTO really unlocks, everything, but it takes work. So that's that planning phase you talked about. It's very important. And then what I do is I have 3 files in this workflow. It's called AI Dev Tasks. And the second file, it's a prompt, and it basically says, okay, take this PRD that we just finished, read it, and now generate an atomic list of tasks in dot notation. So, 1.0, 1.1, 1.2, 2.0, 2.1, to decide how you're going to actually implement this, right? And then you read that, and you'll find like, oh my gosh, no, I didn't mean that. Or, well, that's interesting. I hadn't thought of that, right? Iterate on that for an hour. And then you've got a PRD that's finished. You've got a implementation plan that's finished. And then you can say, let's build it, right? And now we're in an age where agents really don't need you to hold their hand after that. Good agents like AMP can get the work done if you have a clear plan. And then the world is your oyster. I mean, we're in this bonkers time period where you actually can have ideas that are pretty technical, and you can launch businesses that completely change industries with very little capital, and probably bootstrapped in many cases.
Hey everyone, hope you're enjoying the episode. One of the common things that we hear is, hey, you all talk about all these different tools, you walk through these demos. Sometimes it's hard for me to follow along. We decided to do recently was take all the things that we talk about, put them in a weekly newsletter. We literally list all the tools, we link to them, and any demo that we walk through, we break it down step by step, put it in this newsletter so it's super easy for you to follow along. And the other nice thing is that if there's someone on your team that you think could benefit, they're working on that subject area, they could use a little bit of AI injection into their workflow, send them the newsletter, send them that particular episode. We make it super easy to do that. It's free to sign up. All you have to do is go to thisnewway.com, enter your email address, and you'll get this weekly email from us. Hope you enjoy it. With that said, let's go back to the episode. This is super interesting. And although we're talking about code, even if, in my opinion, you're writing a document, so say you're using AI to write a memo or a document or a report or something, there's no reason that you shouldn't follow the exact workflow that you just articulated, right? You should probably create a plan. There should probably be a to-do list. And I think like the same mentality, this is just a way to work with AI. With any sort of agentic system, this is the workflow. So people should use it even if they're not coding.
Yes. And you know what's interesting? It's actually very similar to the way a good leader works with their team. And I think what we're all realizing is if we didn't like communicating before, we're going to be terrible with AI. So I've become a much better communicator. I, I used to just not have patience when it came to communicating my plans and ideas. And now I've realized that I have to be good at that. Have to be good at working through the plan and thinking through the plan and specifying the plan and then asking, the agent to execute it. And I think this is what's going to, if you're listening, this is what's going to separate you from the other people that are using AI, right? Because in this new world we live in, you can't compete, period, if you don't use AI, right? But then how do you compete with everyone else that's using AI, right? And the answer is you get good at planning. You get good at not outsourcing your thinking and using your experience and your knowledge to your advantage.
I've been thinking about this. There's this kind of dilemma, which is if you're a manager, if you're a really good manager, you probably have the skills to be really good at AI. If you apply yourself, you probably have the skills. The problem, though, is a lot of the innovation is happening at the doing layer. And you're currently separated from the doing layer because your job is to manage and it's to manage people. But the problem is that the innovation is at the doing layer. So I think every manager should do this, is to carve out a week of time, a day a week or something to be an IC and to use their management skills to manage AI. And then some pretty magical things I think can be unlocked.
Absolutely. You're right. It's like go to the gym and learn how to communicate better and learn how to manage better and how to give feedback better. It is really funny. I've been blessed, manage a lot of people in my career, and working with AI has refined those skills and actually revealed how bad I was at communicating what I wanted to happen and how I wanted it to be measured and how would the employee or AI know they were successful. So this is the final kind of tip I'll share, which is feedback loops. So say that you've planned, right? Okay, this is what we want. This is how we want it built. Well, then what? How does the agent know if it was successful? And how do you avoid having to copy and paste, 1,000 times to try to tell the agent what was right and what was wrong? So this is where you need to think in what is in feedback loops. What is the most efficient way that the agent can get its own feedback on its work, right? So it depends what you're building, right? So when you're coding, what you can do is you can say to the agent, I would like you to build a script that will test your work that you can run when you're done. And if you see errors, then you can fix it. And I want you to loop until you don't have any more errors, right? Because otherwise what you're going to be doing is the agent says, I'm done. And then you test it and you say, no, you're not. And you test it and you say, no, you're not. And you do that for hours. Whereas the agent, and AMP is very good at this, is if you say, I want you to write a script that does something that allows you to test yourself. And it's very good at that. It's pretty wild. It's like you have this self-healing cycle that is just amazing.
One question I have for you, and again, this is just like good practice. Even before any of this stuff, you would have a checklist, right? Like a safety checklist, a pre-flight checklist, or whatever else. And so you're just asking the AI to create these things, these test plans for itself. But one question I have is, I remember reading Jason Lemkin was building this like AI and was creating test plans for the software that he was writing with AI, and then his AI was lying to him and saying, "Oh yeah, I passed all of the tests," and he's running it and it's like not working. And the AI said, "Oh yeah, I made that up because I was afraid to disappoint you." So is that it?
Right?
Yeah. Does that happen for you ever, or is there a
Yes.
way to get around that?
No, it does happen to everyone using AI because, large language models were trained with with reward systems that are human-like, right? So in the same way that an employee is not going to want to tell you it failed, it's going to want to, an employee is going to want to figure out how to succeed or look like it's succeeding, right? Large language models are the same. Now, they're not humans. I don't want to anthropomorphize them, but they are trained in that way, right? And so the way to get around this is to write code to test your work, right? So this is where, so when you're coding, you do have things called tests, but the thing about tests is you can fudge them or delete them. Whereas if you have your agent write a script that does a thing, and then the agent can check the output of that script, it's much less likely to lie to you. It's sort of like if you have a pool, right? And you're like, all right, pool person, I need you to test the pH in my pool. It's kind of data driven. They show you the swab stick and it's like, it is what it is, right? So you need to figure out these feedback loops that give you truth. And again, this is a skill we all have to learn, right? And if people want to be successful in this new AI age, which I'm sure everyone listening does, you have to learn. And this is where you have to not outsource your thinking. Okay, I want the agent to do this amazing thing. How can it test itself? And sometimes you can talk to the agent about that. All right, let's figure this out. I need a way for you to test the output of whatever this work is that we can know factually if you're done and correct. And because agents are amazing at writing code, it will probably write a really good script to help you do that. And it can run that script itself. And all of a sudden you've done a week of work, in a day. So
everybody can get started. They can go check out AMP. It's free. They can start to build
code for free.
Try this kind of thing. And I would even say, like, once you learn, if you have young kids, like do this with your kids too. Get them onboarded with this idea. I mean, your background is education, and you said you had Treehouse and it taught people how to code. So for people who want to say, I want to get my kids to be AI native and start building things, what would you recommend? What would you recommend to them?
Well, the thing that probably all of you are already doing is getting a family ChatGPT account, right? So start there, right? And the idea there, a lot of our kids' schools, unfortunately, are discouraging AI, and I don't blame them. It's like they have a lot of kids that are trying to do their homework instead of using AI properly. But so I think as parents, we need to say, okay, we're going to be AI first in this home, and we're going to teach you how to use AI effectively. And so what we do at my house is, everybody has ChatGPT, and, we'll be having discussion. It's like, okay, well, let's ask, the large language model that and see what we get. Okay, well, let's think about the result we got. Is it trustworthy? Why or why not? Right. And this is where you teach them about hallucination. Okay, the model is only as good as the context that it has. Does it have the right context? We don't know where this context came from. So that means we can't trust it. So it's just teaching them. It's like you say, don't run across the road without looking right and left. Don't use the AI unless you know where the context came from. So there's all these things that unfortunately none of us grew up with that we're all learning now that we need to pass on to our kids. One of the more dangerous things is that they actually believe all the negative hype about AI, right? That it's going to take all the jobs and that it's going to, destroy creativity. And none of these things are true. They're all designed, to be clickbait. When the truth is, it's going to augment everybody that is agentic themselves, right? So it's like teaching them how to do that. Teaching them like, let's not outsource our thinking here. Let's take a minute and try to solve the problem in our head and then ask the AI, what it thinks about it and help us, work through that problem and see if we missed anything. So that's kind of thing one. I would say the other thing is just helping them understand now that they can create so much more and that they can build so much more. So those are a couple things. And then it's like, don't take the cheaty, easy route. It's easy now to get AI to do some things that you should be doing yourself. How do you have the discipline to do that? We as adults have that. This is hard for us. So it's going to be hard for our 15-year-old, right? So those are a couple things I think about. It's a pretty wild time to be alive. I mean, I honestly feel like, this is like going back to the moment folks figured out what an integrated circuit was. I mean, it changed everything, right? We're not just at, the year 1996 where the internet really started to happen. We're at, 1950 when the integrated circuit was invented. Like that's how big this is. And it's very exciting, but it's just like, how lucky are we? We're actually alive and we're the right age to be able to adapt, understand, and use these technology and it might never happen in human history again.
It's a pretty spectacular time. Usually I ask, what are you most excited about? But I think you just answered that question. So this is great. So Ryan, thank you so much. I mean, this was awesome conversation. We'll put all of the links in the show notes, and also your prompt library. We'll also put that in the show notes so people can check out how you do development and get a glimpse of that. And of course, whenever you're out with the product, and if you want to demo it, we'd love to see it. So please come back and show us the product when it's live.
Yeah, I'd love to. If you want to chit chat to me, just hit me up on Twitter. I'm just Ryan Carson, or on LinkedIn, I'm Ryan Carson. Chat me up and let me know if you need help with any of this stuff.
All right. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks a lot.
And that's it for today. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of This New Way. If you like the content, be sure to rate, review, and subscribe so you can get notified when we post the next episode. See you next time.